Hello and welcome to the Auto Guide Show. This week we have a lot of Ford news. We compare to BMWs, and it's Monterey Car Week. But first, a word from our sponsor. eBay has reinvented car buying. From click to curb, everything is covered. With their new secure purchase, eBay isn't just where you find your car, it's where you buy it start to finish. Title, financing, registration, delivery, it's all built in. And eligible vehicle purchases are backed by up to $100,000 in protection. This is what modern car buying looks like. Get your next ride on eBay. eBay, things people love. Secure Purchase is powered by Carmel Dealer Services, LLC, an eBay subsidiary. Okay, so before we get into the show, I clearly am in a new place again, as my office still goes under the renovation scalpel? Drill? Hammer? I don't know.
All the above?
Something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm in a, slumming it in a Cadillac Escalade office, which I got a screen here to see myself, HDMI plugs. It's pretty nice. I wish I wasn't using my phone as a camera so you could see the setup, but
I think the Escalade is still cheaper per square foot than a Toronto condo. So, it's kind of a deal.
Yeah, you're probably right. And it goes faster.
Yeah.
So speaking of fast,
yes.
Things off, we recently had two BMWs with M badges and 6-speed manuals, the way it should be.
Yeah, so we this isn't a typical comparison. I feel like we've been saying that a lot lately, but it's more of a sibling rivalry because for 2025, BMW gave the M2 a little more power, and now it has 473 horsepower. Not that it needed more, but there you go. That's always nice, right? Except now it's matching the M3 and M4. So we decided, why not take a look at what they're like together and see essentially if you really need the extra doors with the M3 and if they're basically the same car outside of very different styling. And Mike, it turned out that they're actually pretty different, right?
Yeah, I mean, you know what else the M2 almost equals besides power? Curb weight. So
yeah.
It really is there's like 3 cars with the same power to weight ratio, and 2 of them have 2 doors. Actually, 2 of them, oh no, there's no M4 Grand Coupe. Oh, I just gave BMW a bad idea. Anyway, so yeah, the M3 that I got to drive more was not a heritage vehicle, but it more or less was. It was pretty much an entry level, as funny as that phrase may seem for an M3. It had a couple options, still had like 10 grand in options, but it had the Dakar Yellow 2 paint, which is a throwback to the classic 90s paint that like every M3 and every car magazine was painted. Silver wheels to match, and just a black interior. And yeah, I think the last M cars I've driven have been too optioned with the automatics and too many driving assists and whatnot. This just felt so nice to drive. Like, it wasn't overly crazy raw sporty, but it was so fast, handled so well. It was engaging. It hit its weight pretty well. It was just, yeah, I ended up liking it way more than I thought I would, and I really did think I'd like it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was excited for you to drive it because I actually had already driven this car months prior. I drove it back in November of last year on winter tires. So this gave us a unique opportunity to actually experience it on both. And yeah, sure enough, I mean, everything you said checks out, right? It doesn't feel as heavy as it is, and it still has pretty good steering, whereas I find the more powerful all-wheel drive automatic M3s and M4s for that matter, just they become a little too one-dimensional. They're very accomplished and obviously super quick, but I feel like I'm a little more removed from the fun. And this puts you right in the center. It also, compared to the M2, I think we made this comparison. We made it in the store. We made it a bunch of times in person. The M2 is kind of a bulldog in comparison. It looks kind of like one. It's got the big jowls. And it's meaner. BMW's fixed it in my mind because I never really loved the M2 or this generation when it came out. But this one feels a lot more sorted when you're actually pushing it. But compared to the M3, it still wants to rotate a little more than, the sedan.
So yeah, I agree with what you're saying. It's a raw vehicle, and honestly, I'm not super crazy about a lot of modern BMW styling, but the M2 especially. The M3, I actually like it. It kind of suits the giant grille, but the M2's got this weird sort of blocky. Wasn't really sure what it was trying to do, which is too bad because the 2 Series used to be such a great looking little car.
Yeah, and I will say, like, the proportions, I dig for the M2, right? Like, the rear three quarter, it just looks so obscenely muscular, and so that I'm a fan of. I think if I had to pick one now, I'd end up picking the sedan.
Me too.
I backed the wrong horse in this race.
Me too. I mean, we have free cars to test for a week, so of course, like we can't take that for granted. But the M3 was one of those where I really didn't want to give it back. Because I knew I couldn't go buy one, so I just wanted to hold on to it as long as I could. And yeah, it was a fantastic car.
Yeah, both are winners.
On.
It's just more of a winner.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
exactly.
Ford's Model T moment. Nothing sets expectations quite like bringing up the Model T. So, I guess I should start with the good news, right? Ford is rethinking how it produces vehicles, specifically EVs. So it is investing $2 billion into EVs to go on the $3 billion or so that it already put towards a battery plant. And that might seem like a strange thing to do in times like these, but the idea here is to make something more affordable, right? That's always the biggest critique of EVs, and Ford sees a future with them because I think out of the big 3 or the big 2.5, Ford has more of a global footprint. So it wants to compete, and China is doing very quick improvements with EVs. So this is, instead of a production line, it was described as more or less a production tree where you have the front, back, and middle, and they all just kind of sync up together. And Ford is really focusing on simplifying the production process to make it quicker and easier and less stressful on line workers, which then should knock down the price more. And yeah, that was more or less all we heard. We got to see Ford employees looking at the first vehicle that are supposed to come off this platform, which is a Maverick-sized EV pickup that is supposed to be about $30,000. But that's all we got. We're going to have to wait another year to see the actual vehicle. The only real stats we got were that it would be more spacious inside the cabin than a current RAV4, and it would be as quick in a straight line as an EcoBoost Mustang, which you are pretty familiar with recently. So yeah, that's I don't know. It's a lot of soon to be.
So lots of thoughts here. First off, this $30,000 EV, like this for some reason is the holy grail mark that everyone seems to go after. Tesla for like a decade said they're making a $30,000 EV, and that never showed up. Chevy with the Equinox EV was going to be $30,000 to start, and that didn't actually happen either. So this truck, I mean, yeah, go for it, Ford. Let's see if you can actually do it. The thing is, as the years go on, it becomes a harder thing to hit because everything is more expensive. Their claim it has more space than the RAV4 and this and that. That's great. Then why did you use an image where the rear seat passenger's feet and legs are underneath the front passenger? And I don't even know how a seat fits in that little gap between it. Like, you could have made it look a little more spacious. But anyway.
Just a little bit, yeah. You're making the image, Ford. You might as well.
Yeah, it's a simple graphic. It's not like you're restrained by it anyway. But anyway. Yeah, well, this is definitely a wait and see.
Yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic. You're right. I think the price is the biggest sticking point already, because look at the Maverick. It was, it's a $20,000 truck when it launched, and it wasn't even $20,000 then because destination. And now it's almost $30,000. So, moving on?
Yes.
All right. So, we're going to touch on some of the Monterey reveals because when we were recording, we were recording right in the thick of all the craziest reveals because that's just how things work. So we are going to talk about the Acura RSX, and I can almost hear the hissing and gnawing of teeth. just
I was
from
gonna say this is the
people.
craziest one, and I don't mean because it's like an outlandish concept. I mean because it's what? Like, okay, RDX is taken, but make a new letter up. Call it the
Yeah,
FDX or the DDX. I
yeah.
don't care.
I'm
The
less bothered
DMX.
by the name because don't call it the DMX. I'm less bothered by the name only because the RSX existed for like what, 5 years? Everyone knows Integra, and everyone knows that the RSX was an Integra. So recycling that name doesn't bother me too much because the Integra exists. Um, I just think it's funny, and I've said this a few times. I say it in the headline. This is what a ZDX should have been. It's a coupe over, and that's what the current ZDX probably should be instead of a rebadged Lyric. Um, so to clarify for any listeners who don't know, the current electric Acura, the ZDX, is a joint venture with General Motors. It will be the only Acura that is. This is going to be the first homegrown, all in-house EV from Acura. We don't know much. We did some really half-assed photoshopping to get a rough idea of the size of this. It's like 10 inches shorter-ish, I'd say, maybe slightly shy of a foot than the ZDX, and the wheelbase is about the same distance or difference. So it's going to be smaller, but it should probably be fairly sporty. I'm guessing
Big
over
tires.
400 horsepower. Big tires, 265 width. Yeah, and I think it looks good. I mean, a little anonymous, if I'm being honest, because it follows a lot of current design trends, and it has Buick headlights. But it's good looking. It's just, yeah, I don't know where this lands in the market, especially considering where EVs are going with North America.
So I will use the exact same logic you had as to why this is a bad name. As you said, the RSX was a one generation, basically rebadged Integra that had a bit of a following and whatnot, but it's not this wholly historic name. So why do they have to reuse it? Like, they could have just made up anything. Or if you want a name that people remember from the brand, Legend, Vigor, like, do you have other ones in there that lasted longer and actually were for more than two passengers, really? So it's
Mhm.
just, it's odd. I know they're trying to tie like, oh, it's sporty because it's a coupe over electric vehicle, but just call it the Type S. Nothing else. Like, there's other things they could have done, but
Oh
anyway.
yeah, that's a fair point. Like a Type S, just as like a model on its own, sort of like how BMW has XM or iX.
Mm.
Yeah, because I get the logic of it being R blank X because it's roughly RDX sized. So I get that internal logic, but yeah, I mean, yeah, might as well go wild with it. Call it something else. Call it A spec.
RLX.
Yeah,
RLX.
RLX will do really great. Um, yeah, so I don't know. We don't even see the production model for another year, but I don't know. Hopefully, it's good. Now that they've killed off your favorite sedan, this better impress.
Yeah, TL name was available too. TL was TSX, so it's TLX. Anyway, moving on.
Moving on. Another EV coupe over thing. The
With
Cadillac.
gull wing doors and more ground clearance than a Subaru. It's, oh, did we
Yes.
mention it's a Cadillac?
Yeah. So the Cadillac elevated velocity concept. I sat in on the information for this one because, first, I just want to clarify for anyone who might be watching, or if you're listening, go look up pictures of this. This is a runner. It isn't just a styling exercise. It does not have the performance that Cadillac envisions, but nonetheless, yeah, I like that this actually rolls under its own power. It is related to the Opulent Velocity that launched a year ago in Monterey, and sure enough, it's very similar styling wise, very cool in my mind. And I really like in profile you see this these character lines in the bodywork that look like the V symbol, which I think is a really cool touch. Huge gull-wing doors, like you said. It is an EV of some sort, and it has a lot of red in the interior. There are a bunch of different materials, but all of them are red. And yeah, there's two different modes, right? This is meant to go off-roading. It was inspired by Desert Polo. I kid you not. There is a custom
Okay.
fit Desert Polo kit that fits in the trunk if you're missing out on a helmet and you just need that ultimate gift for somebody.
and if there's a sandstorm, you can get through it. So I'm an
There is.
absolute. Sorry,
You mentioned
Rude
sandstorm.
sponsoring this?
You mentioned a sandstorm, so I have to point out there is a drive mode that uses an evolution of night vision for if you get caught in a sandstorm. That's what Cadillac says, anyway.
So I'm a huge sucker for off-road cars. I don't mean trucks, I mean cars. Like cars that are jacked up for off-road. So this just speaks to me. To me, this is peak Monterey too. I mean, the one we just talked about, that's an actual production vehicle coming, so it's a little odd to do it. And most of them are like, here's our ridiculously exclusive, uber expensive car, and we took the top off, or we put a different kind of leather in. And it's like, yay. This is Cadillac being, hey, you want to see something crazy? Here's an off-road gull-wing car that can see through sandstorms and is meant for polo. So yeah, this is never going to make it. But if this is like a styling direction for future SUVs, maybe, I don't know. It looks like a AMG GT kind of mixed with the lyrics. So
yeah, I think it looks great. I think Cadillac has been at this design language for a long time now and has really found its groove. My only concern is that Cadillac is quickly approaching like Peugeot status in terms of making cool concepts that never see the light of day.
Yeah, you just start putting some in production. Well, except for that Celestiq, that isn't very limited production. But
yeah.
Anyway, all right, moving on.
Moving on. So related to the Ford news, because you have to build these new platform EVs somewhere, the Escape is going to die.
Womp womp. And I know the Escape's kind of floated in limbo for, I'd say, the last decade, kind of irrelevant or less relevant every year, it seemed. Even though it's still a decent vehicle, it's just everything else good. In that class is so huge and competitive, which I never understood why Ford kind of ignored, and now they're abandoning, which I know they have the Bronco Sport, but I don't see many people looking at a CRV, a RAV4, and a Bronco Sport. Like the Bronco Sport's being cross-shopped with maybe Foresters and Foresters.
It's tough because in my mind, you're making a lot of sense. The current Escape is good and the closest thing you can get to a regular car from Ford now, since not counting the Mustang. But since the entire market seems to be moving more towards off-roady models, right? Like Subaru with the Wilderness, Honda with the Trail Sport, the Bronco Sport suddenly seems to make more sense every year because everyone else is kind of moving in on that territory. It's small for what it is and it's pricey for what it is, but it does have character and it is pretty accomplished off-road. But yeah, like to paint a different perspective, the Escape was the second best-selling model at Ford last year. So, or I guess, so I read second, but it must be third because F-Series and then Explorer. Like Explorer must outsell Escape, but maybe not.
Maybe not. Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know. I'm sort of sad. It seems ballsy to cut a model that's so popular, but also,
Yeah, and I'm kind of sad because the little SUV Ford didn't start. Like there were RAV4s and Foresters and CRVs, and they were all kind of different. Like the Forester was really just a kind of a big wagon, and the RAV4 was, you could take the top off and stuff. There's two doors, and then Ford saw that class and said people want performance and they want it to basically be a car just up top. And like that original 200 horsepower V6 in this thing flew, and it kind of made all the other ones look slow and kind of cumbersome. And then the second gen with the 240, like it was one of the ones to have. And the Tribute, its twin, like they were everywhere. And then the third gen just kind of, I don't know, they like missed something and everyone just kind of passed them.
Yeah, and I feel like the third gen kind of just became a fleet special, right? Like that's where you saw it all the time. I don't know, it's sad, but
yeah. And the third gen, the 2-liter turbo, like it was one of the sportiest ones. It had great steering and everything. It had a lot of focus in it, but whatever. Well, we got one more bit of news, I believe, and it's about Ford. So this might lean a bit towards both stories. Is Ford wants to make cars again, which isn't a surprise. They might have been a little premature in going all SUV, although a lot of luxury vehicle brands are going that way. Like Volvo this week announced that sedans and wagons are dead in North America after next year. Well, they didn't announce, but they also didn't say they're going to still be here. So read between the lines. So that's kind of sad. And we know about Buick and Lincoln, but We've talked about sedans dying consistently. I don't think Ford means they're going to bring back the
Oh,
Focus or
yeah.
the Fusion or anything. They're looking, and this picture shows it, things that are blurring the lines between SUVs and wagons. And I think that's a growing segment. Like we've said, Subaru had the formula forever, and maybe some people are figuring it out now. And this is going to be maybe the next thing where they are cars just slightly lifted as opposed to SUVs, although Subaru just ditched that market. So
the all roads and all terrains and that sort of market, right? Like, I mean, even something like an Ioniq 5, outside of the XRT trim, basically feels like a car. So yeah, so that news, going back to the EV news with Ford, they introduced an animation for this new platform, and it showed a bunch of different shapes, and one of them did look like a medium-sized hatchback. And so maybe, like, if everything's on the same platform, it's kind of easier to do that. And maybe we'll just see a family hatchback. I don't think cars are ever going to get back to where they were in terms of market share, but it does seem like we're seeing people start to, almost miss cars. How light they are, how easy they are to drive.
Well, no, you make a good point, and we've talked about this before, and I think we're definitely seeing it as the SUV fatigue starting to set in. I mean, everybody had coupes, and then people were like, well, wait, having an extra set of doors is way more practical. So then sedans, and then, hey, if we have a wagon body, that's even better. And then people, well, wagons are, soccer mom, suburban dad. We don't want that. So minivans became the thing. And then that went out of favor for SUVs. And those went out of favor for our modern crossover SUVs. But like you said, everything's going off-roady and trying to be more rugged because they're trying to find the next market. And I think Ford and other manufacturers are kind of dabbling here and there to see what's the next thing, because SUVs as we know it aren't going to be around forever. They've had a long run, but tastes are going to change. Every generation doesn't want to drive what their parents did. So
yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah, and specifically with EVs, I would say, like range, you're only going to get better range if you go car shaped. So yeah, I mean, good for Ford. I'm glad that they're figuring this out. I'm curious what we'll get, and if any of it will be related to the cars they still sell in China.
Maybe the Echo and the SX4 were ahead of their time. We're going to get high riding cars. So you have that high seating position and tall roof of an SUV, but you're still in a car.
It's a Polestar 2 world.
I can just make it less awkward and styling.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's all, because we do have news that we're going to just talk about next week, right? Because there's a lot coming out as we speak.
We'll cover the rest next week, and we'll have more reviews and whatnot. But we'll take a quick break here on the Auto Guide Show, brought to you by eBay Motors. And when we come back, Kyle and I will be talking to our special guest for the week. And then after that, I'll have Colum on to talk F1, and then Kyle will be back to talk about what's next.
eBay has reinvented vehicle buying. From click to curb, everything's covered. It's all thanks to their new secure purchase. Ever try to buy a car and end up in a parking lot with a stranger on some blind trust? Or spend half the day at a dealership talking to pushy salespeople and signing paperwork? Or maybe worst of all, wait hours at the DMV just to transfer the title? That era is over. For years, eBay has been the go-to for gearheads, collectors, and DIYers. Because whatever you're into, from classics to SUVs and trucks to imports, eBay's got it. And now with Secure Purchase, eBay isn't just where you find your next ride, it's where you can buy it, start to finish. Sellers and titles are verified, paperwork is handled by experts, and payments are traceable and digital, so you know exactly who you're dealing with and exactly what you're getting. Plus, you can finance, insure, and register your vehicle all in one place. No more hours at the dealership, no more trips to the DMV. Get your vehicle, plates, and paperwork shipped to your door ready to drive. And it's all part of one seamless process designed to feel as easy as buying anything else online. And eligible vehicles purchased on eBay are backed by up to $100,000 in purchase protection. Thinking about selling a ride? Secure Purchase makes that simple too, because you know your buyer and their funds are verified. If you still owe on your car, the financing payoff is fully integrated, so you're not chasing paperwork or waiting on checks to clear. And with Secure Purchase, you get paid fast, and you're not going to be stuck chasing no-shows or answering the 5th still available messages. This is what modern car buying looks like. Skip the DMV, skip the sketchy meetups. Buy it on eBay. eBay, things people love. Secure Purchase is powered by Carmel Dealer Services, LLC, an eBay subsidiary. Hello and welcome back. We have a special guest with us today. If you could just introduce yourself and what you're up to.
Hey, my name is Patrick Min. I am the vice president here of the Washington Automotive Press Association, also car blogger at Carsplain, and also dabble in some automotive product planning.
That's quite a full plate. I just say I drive cars. It sounds a lot worse. So maybe I need to just up my titles. Kyle also gets more than one title, so
I do.
I'm behind you guys. Well, you're also in Ajax, so.
Well, so are you.
Yeah, but you have a role. I just show up and drive cars. Like I said, I drive cars.
That's what connects us all. That's why Patrick's here.
Yes,
I like to drive slow cars fast, right? So
exactly, it's the most fun, especially these days because fast cars are just ridiculously fast.
Too fast.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll get into some detail. So you and I have known each other for quite some time through previous lives, and then we both kind of came back to this world at the same time. We're also members of the Midwest Automotive Media Association. So that's where we get to see each other at least once a year, not on trips. So that's fun. You saved me this year because I brought a car that they needed for the event, and then I was suddenly carless and I couldn't get anywhere. So Patrick gave me some rides to and from the track. I didn't think it through too well, but lesson learned for next year. So we always ask this off the bat. What got you into cars? Were you born into a car family, or is this something you developed on your own?
Born into a bit of a car family. Like my dad and my uncle were always into cars, and I say like when I was 5, I really wanted to be a car designer. But then by the time I was 6, very self-aware child, I realized I suck at art. Like I couldn't draw like a wheel, so I was like, be done. But always loved figuring out like what do people like about their car, what do they not like, what cars become really popular. And I even made like my own like lineups at the time. Again, very nerdy kid. They had like Greek letter names. Like they started with the Min Alpha, and then like the Min, Delta, and all the way to like Omega. Gave them like powertrains, like feature lists. So yeah, that, and my parents owned a small business. And I knew all customers by their car. Like I was like, oh, red Audi A4, that's Mr. Bauman. Like, okay, get like his order ready and stuff like that. So yeah, cars through and through.
Have you gotten that?
Sorry, I was gonna say, good thing you didn't succeed because Lancia and Opel might be coming after you for copyright infringement on some of those car names.
That's what I was gonna ask. Like, did GM come to you about their platform names? Like,
right, and I was like, whoa, Lambda for crossover? Like, no thanks. Like that was not the original intention.
This is not what I envisioned when I was 6.
Yeah, 6-year-old
all right.
Pat's very upset.
Yeah, it's funny you say about knowing people by their cars because that was like my life too. Anywhere, even like as I got older, I remember being at work and like interviewing people, and I couldn't remember who I interviewed, but I could remember what car they drove in. So when they came back for a second interview, I'd be like, oh, it's that person. Oh, okay, it's Blue Accord. All right.
Yeah. You have resumes, which is like Blue Accord. Oh, what's your work history?
Like, huh.
I don't really care what your work history is because someone showed up in a WRX earlier, so they're probably going to get the job. They're probably going to be late and terrible at the job, but got a cooler car. So fast forward a couple years. Did you get into the industry sort of right out of school, or was it sort of a sideways path like most of us take?
Kind of sideways. Like first job out of college, I worked for Boeing, so it was in aerospace. And went through like consulting, but then realized, I love cars. I'd rather, if I'm spending, 50, 60 hours a week doing something, I'd love it to be somewhat fun. They always say, do what you love and you never work a day in your life. But really I found it's true. Like if you like sausage, don't go see sausage being made. Like it will ruin it for you. No, it hasn't completely ruined it. But it was after grad school, so I went to Michigan for my business school program, and decided to try to make the pivot hard into automotive strategy, and that's where I went wound up at Toyota. After that, I did an internship at General Motors during, and loved it. And so got into product strategy, product planning, was head planner over Tacoma for several years and helped create what's known today as TRD Pro. So that was like a fun process, very data-driven, slower culture, I would say, at Toyota, and always having to explain to headquarters in Japan, like, why we not only need one truck, we need two trucks. And what do American people do with these big 220-inch long trucks all day long? So got into that, and then got pulled into a couple different areas. So at ALG was at looking at residual values. Again, if you love cars, staring at depreciation numbers all day long, and a good car only loses 50% after 3 years. Yeah, it really makes it hard to go out and buy a bunch of new cars. Except Tacoma was always really strong in residuals. But it was how do you help product planners with either their strategy or contenting to help improve that? So got to work a couple different angles in product strategy that way. And then worked around a couple different projects around mobility as a service. So with a classmate of mine, we launched one of the first subscriptions, I would say, to vehicles back through Mobility Accelerator program back in Detroit, back in already 2017. And then again, journeyman of automotive, helped with Amazon standing up the automotive marketplace, or Amazon Autos. So now in the States, at least so far, you can buy new Hyundais. I think they just announced used vehicles kind of going on. So now you can buy a car on Amazon through local dealers. And so, yeah, all different parts of kind of the automotive customer experience, I think I've tried to capture in terms of overall exposure. I don't know what would be next to fill out the circle, but it was, as I worked on different projects here and there, the love of the vehicles itself never went away. And that's where I started to lean more in terms of the writing, the reviewing, and some of the content creation that way. And that keeps me at least close to cars in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, it sounds like you need to get a dealership or maybe an auto recycler or something next.
Right. Or at least put the wacky inflatable guy outside my house. And so I feel like I'm a dealer that way. So
I think you have to go full circle. I think you have to end up on the design team.
That I would love it, but then I feel like they look at how I'm dressed. I'm like, oh, is that really the right color? They're like, really? You're gonna judge me with your ragged T-shirt and cargo shorts, dad mode? I'm like, okay, never mind.
Well, if you design minivans, you say who's better suited.
Yeah,
right.
And it's not ragged. It's well used and thus more sustainable.
I like it. I'll add that to the resume.
It's funny how you mentioned you're at Boeing and then the cars. I like airplanes a lot too, but I can just imagine how tedious most 99% of the jobs would be, because it's not like you're there designing a plane. That's a fraction of a person gets to do that. So with cars, we first met when I was at an OEM and you were at ALG, and yeah, product planning sounds like this amazing job, and it is. And if you're really into data and cars, it is, but it's not you designing the car, as Kyle was mentioning.
Right.
It's you are given a giant spreadsheet of bits and pieces and another spreadsheet of sales data and consumer interest, and then you got to mix and match and make the bottom end all work out. And it's more math than it is having fun making a car. So yeah, it's like you said, if you don't want to see how the car is made, then you don't want to see how the car is made.
No, it is a unique world, that's for sure.
Well, so related to that though, I mean, did you find that you took a very data-driven process to your own vehicles?
I would say over the last about 8 years or so, I think I have, in terms of my friend and I called it carbitrage, and it was really fun during COVID, because it was I could find a really discounted car, buy that. And so that case in point was our first EV. It was an Audi e-tron, like the full EV, which today is called Q8 e-tron. But it like didn't have any demand when it first hit the lots. And so I think we bought like, it was like a leftover 2019 model year. The sticker price is something like $83,000, but on the lease the year later, they're like giving, I think the cap cost was like 60 something. And so, really cheap lease. And then during COVID, the values went up because like, cars are just in short supply. So we actually were able to trade out of a lease, get equity back, and like use that to like, pay for the lease of, it was our Polestar 2 at the time. And similarly, minivan for dad mode, Pacifica Hybrid had like no demand, got like a really crazy discount at that time on it, and then was able to flip that for like the refreshed Pacifica Hybrid, and even that was like at a good discount. And a year later, flipped that. Like we made somehow like either came out even or like slightly ahead for some of these. So I guess that was like kind of the mathematics or analytics in terms of like trying to find pockets of data. So yeah, I probably look at like wholesale data way more than anyone should, as well as like scouring like the lease hackers and like other sites of the world, and try to compare like pricing. But that has kind of let us like leapfrog into, again, I've probably changed cars more than some people like go clothes shopping. So I don't know, but it's been fun.
That's the way to do it. Get as many cars as you can.
Yeah, you get to experience more.
My own press fleet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how you're talking about like the sales values, remember when I was working at the manufacturer, and well, actually you're at LG, so you're the one helping us do this, but whenever the residual rates would come out, that was like Christmas, because you'd look at every trim of every car's residual and be like, oh, this one's super high, and then that would be the next car I want to lease, because I would get such a ridiculous deal on it. Because but it was like you had no idea what it's going to get. It's like, maybe I'll get this car in this trim. It's like, no, that one over there I could get for less than some people would go to like a baseball game for a month.
Right.
And my last lease was through COVID as well. I got it. I was supposed to pick it up actually January 2020. It had an issue on an event not involving me, and it was delayed.
Never
and
you.
Then I was supposed to pick it up. No, it actually, this one wasn't. I was supposed to pick it up in March, but it hadn't been repaired and COVID hit. So I ended up getting it in July, but I was already locked into my rates and everything. And after 3 years, I sold it and got 6,000. I didn't sell it. I gave it back on lease and got $6,000 in my pocket for how much it was worth. And they turned around and sold it for the exact same MSRP it was 3.5 years earlier.
Yeah.
And sold it in no time. Because it was just crazy then. And we dumped all that into our current lease, and we have such a great rate. And I keep telling my family, like, the next one's going to be a lot more money, because this isn't going to happen again. So
that is going to be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. The lucky days of that are over. So before we get too far into this, you've obviously owned a lot of cars. You just told us that. Can you pick a favorite?
One of my favorites, like it's hard because one of my heroes is like very early. My dad had the first model year Honda S2000.
Nice.
And that was just like amazing to have and like drive around. Would go through that as much as I could. Beyond that, I would say the 2006. So it was the first year E90 3 Series. I had the 330i, so it was like their, again, 3 liters. It was like the first and only year of the naturally aspirated inline 6. It had like 255 horsepower, had the sport package, manual transmission, and that was just a wonderful blend of like sport, like luxury, and like handling and balance. I think that was like one of the last generations of like hydraulic power steering for like 3 Series. And that to me just sticks. Maybe it's because it was like, a little bit out of college. Got a pretty phenomenal car. That to me just it was so versatile. I got the cold weather package, so that had the fold down rear seat. And so, what else did you need as like, kind of like this mid-20s kid driving around Seattle, although it didn't have all-wheel drive. So that was a bit of a hurt in the Northwest, but it was still just fun. Like you weren't going to get into too much trouble because, again, 250 horsepower, but it was so fun to drive.
Yeah, it's funny because people are like, oh, just a 3 Series, but when you get into like the specific of what came with it, with some of those cars, they're amazing. And that first year S2000 with the smaller engine, yeah, it didn't have as much torque, but man, you could really rev that thing out.
That was my first introduction to summer tires, and then growing up in Chicago, like as it turns like October, November, I'm like, oh, what's happening? Why is my back end going in front of me right now? Like, yeah, summer tires get really like cold and hard when the temperature dips. Like, okay, need to wait.
Yeah, my family wasn't car people, so like I started driving. We had a '94 Cavalier and a '96 Safari, so I learned rear wheel drive in snow real quick with all seasons, which was a blast. But it was until I got my own car that I had summers, and yeah, when it gets cold or on the different kinds of summers when it rains, even you're like, oh, this is a different world. So, okay, go on, Kyle.
Oh, I was just gonna add my own little anecdote about that of my mom's Integra when I was in high school. She got summer tires put on it because they were on sale at Walmart or somewhere equivalent, right? And she's like, "Oh, I got them for a good deal, and they have more grip." And I was like, "No, Mom, they only have more grip in the summer." She's like, "No, they have more grip." And sure enough, in the rain, I spun an Integra. Whoops.
I'm sure it's like the big end of summer blowout. Like, here you go.
Yeah. And it was just like, it was late at night, and I just took a corner, and just the back end just completely went sideways. And I was like, well, good thing it's late and there's nothing around me.
Yep.
You learned throttle lift off oversteer. I learned that on the highway in my Cobalt SS. Like I'd done some driving stuff, but nothing professionally trained yet. That would come pretty much right after this happened, but I was going real fast on an off ramp, and I think something had dropped oil because there's this like real dark streak. And I was like, oh, what's that? So I let go of the throttle at like almost my limits, probably not the car's limits, but close. And then all of a sudden the back started going around at like 70 miles an hour. I was like, oh no. Somehow I didn't have stability control. It didn't exist yet in those cars, but somehow it stayed straight. And I went and bought a lottery ticket, and that
is really funny how everyone's first reaction is like lift off, like slow.
No, well, that's the first and last time I did that.
Yeah, different vehicle. It was growing up, friends had a lake house in like the northern edge of Wisconsin and snowmobile, and we were probably like no more than 10 at the time, and hit like a slushy patch, and my first thought was like, oh, like slow down. And I can still hear my friend's dad yelling at me from across the lake. He's like, "Don't slow down!"
As you're sinking into this lake.
Got back on, and he was like, "If you had slowed down like a hair more, it's like it would have been like the cartoon where you see the bottom drop out."
An expensive lesson.
Yeah.
So
but we're all still here, so it's okay.
Exactly. You learn stuff in your youth. Hopefully, not all of us do. So you've owned tons of cars. What's the one you haven't owned yet that you're either missed back in the day or you've just been waiting years to get your hands on?
So the biggest miss, I would say, was when the Chevrolet SS came in the mid 2010s, right? Mm-hmm. Like those were sitting, and like should have picked up like the 6-speed manual, and then like the second they announced discontinued, like couldn't find them anywhere. And now those are still selling for like $40,000 when it was like discounted to $40,000 new. So that was, I would say, it was like the one that had kind of gotten away. I still haven't scratched off V10 or V12 off the car bingo card. I've had a couple of V8s. I had the V8 S4 Avant with 6-speed. Nice. So had picked up one of those. It was, again, only a few years ago, so it was over 100,000 miles and pretty rusty from living its life in Chicago. But at least wagon, V8, all-wheel drive manual. That one's crossed off, but yeah, V10 has been somewhat elusive. Yeah, so no like beyond 8-cylinder engines as of yet. We'll have to try to figure out what's that fine line between being able to afford purchasing it versus being able to afford maintaining it, like once you have it. And I feel that kind of way with like Porsche too. I guess that's like one of the bigger brands that haven't been able to dip my hands into ownership as of yet. Because again, I don't know what that line is between being able to afford buying it versus if it's below that price point, being able to afford all the maintenance that kind of comes with it.
I, by all means, do not take this as authoritative, but a few of our journalist friends in Canada all have Boxsters, first-gen Boxsters, and it seems like that is a financially sound-ish move because it sounds like the market is more or less bottomed out for them. They're not going to get any cheaper, and then it's like they're just going to start appreciating soon. So if you keep it for a year or two, and it's had the IMS taken care of and things like that, you could actually not lose money on it. As long as something else doesn't go wrong, right? With a 25-year-old mid-engine car.
I don't need to hear this, Kyle. I don't need to refresh all my car searches.
I'm just sharing
every
this.
Boxster in like a 300-mile radius.
I'm sharing this because I can't do a 2-seater. So because we'd have to be a 1-car household, so we need a small back seat. So if you can have a 2-seater, I'm just throwing it out there.
And I would like to help you with your V10. So, I mean, you're few and far between there. I mean, an older M5,
right?
Viper. I mean, not exactly Washington winter cars, really.
But like, the Audi S6.
I was going to say the Audi S6 and RS6 Avants and whatnot. They're kind of high in value. So I guess the best is Huracan. It's all-wheel drive. You're good to go all winter. Throw on some snows and off you go. It's problem solved. or maybe an R8.
We are being practical.
If you want the poor man's Huracan, you get the R8.
Yeah, but it's prettier.
Iron Man drove one. Come on. You can't
he did.
Yeah, he did.
And a convertible.
Although the thing with the first gen R8, again, I haven't been lucky enough to drive them, but all I've ever heard is that the V8 manual is the choice.
Yeah.
So the V10, it's like.
Yeah, the gated shifter.
That's also gated shifter has not been crossed off the bingo card as of yet. So yeah, 2 birds with 1 stone.
There we go.
My bingo card's far worse than yours, so you're doing great.
Same.
4-cylinder V6. Okay. Oh, turbo.
Rotary.
Oh yes, rotary. Oh yes.
No rotary. Okay.
How soon? Flat 6, flat 4. Yeah, I guess I've got some configurations.
Yeah,
flat 6 is one a lot of people have, and it's like, oh, you got a Porsche? No, I did not.
No.
I had a Subaru.
3.6R, my friend.
I had a 3.3 top rear engine in the SVX. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because the Legacy and Outbacks were 3 or 3.6. But that 3.3 snuck in for that one overpriced weird model. And it's one of those two, like how we're talking about, you missed the market. Like I bought mine at the perfect market, and I had such a good condition one for so little, and I sold it, and now like they're not crazy expensive for what you get. It's hard to rationalize. You have to be a complete nut like me that loves them, that I'm like, oh, that's not much, but like no one's spending 20 grand on an SVX, except for us weirdos. So and I don't have that kind of money to just dump on a car that's gonna sit around either. So
So I have a slightly different question here. Without trying to get too work oriented, but Patrick, you've had a few EVs. In fact, as far as I know, you currently still have at least one.
Yeah, we're full EV right now. So.
Oh, excellent. So then my question is, considering everything that's happened in the last 6 or 8 months, do you see what do you see the short-term future being for EVs in North America? As much as you can answer that in a non-work related way.
No, I think it's the people that have it that will continue to love it, and so I think the loyalty kind of within the EV space will stay there and be strong. because if you have access to easy charging, and so if you can charge at home, if you don't need to spend 30 minutes at like a DC fast charger, it is phenomenal. Like, we have a level 2 charger in our garage, so we can charge overnight when we need to. I don't go to gas stations. I don't watch the gas station prices. And when we go on road trips, I have two young girls, 2 and 6, and so they can't last longer than the battery lasts. And so we do need stops. And up and down the East Coast here, the charging channels along the interstates are great as well. So I've had good experience there. So I feel like we'll probably slow down a little bit in terms of like new people jumping in. But there's still a lot to be seen. Like, I'm watching what like Equinox EV seems to be doing right now, and potentially one of the first non-Teslas to break like 100,000 units a year. I think is pretty phenomenal. And it's people shopping in those brands that get that exposure. It really still is kind of the old adage, and Mike knows this as well. Every OEM is convinced, once we get the butts in the seats, like that is going to like change, people's worlds. And that's how everything rises to 10% market share. And then the total pie is like a 6,000% pie because everybody has 10% market share. But it's, like, I truly feel like EV is one of those ones that like once people do experience it, like it's smooth, it's quick, less maintenance, day to day. It does change like what you need to do from like an ownership cycle. And so the people again that have it will continue to love it, will continue to kind of re-up as like their next purchase comes about. The technology will continue to improve. We'll see range improvements, we'll see efficiency, albeit at a bit of a slower pace, I'm sure. But with I think the big names like Tesla's not going to slow down. Rivian's not going to slow down. I think Lucid will, continue to push. I'm interested to see like all the announcements that will happen like at Monterey and like all those elements as we see more concepts there. But I think overall, again, a bit of a slowdown in terms of like overall trends, but people like saving money on gas. So hybrids, EVs all kind of fit in that mix, and it's really what fits your lifestyle. Like if I was towing and hauling thousands of pounds, like hundreds of miles every week, then no, doesn't fit the use case. But for the 90+% of people that don't need to do that, I think it's still a terrific option. But I still, in my heart of hearts, want one option that is rumbly, row your own. And so I think that has its place too, and will continue to have, hopefully some support in place for quite some time, because I do want to teach my daughters how to drive a manual transmission, and do want to, have them experience kind of, the thrill of like an exhaust that's not a, what is it? What does Dodge call it? Like a
Fret-sonic.
Fret-sonic. Yeah. So not quite just a speaker rumbling in the back. I'd love for them to, hear like an engine. And so I like sharing that. And so, I think support all kind of avenues of like what an enthusiast looks like. And there are absolutely EV enthusiasts. There are, V10 and V12 enthusiasts and like everything in between.
And enthusiasts. And for the V10 and V12 enthusiasts who are listening, if you have a lead on a really affordable
if you got that 1980s Jaguar that you want to just get rid of for $1,000, fully reliable.
Must have leaper on the hood. I don't want like the little like circle badge.
But so if you were someone who towed and you want manual and all that, there's this Tacoma TRD Pro that someone helped, launch. That's that I just drove and we'll be talking about on a future episode. So there you go.
That's cool. Yeah, I love seeing tacos. That will always have a strong place in my heart whenever I see tacos on the road.
Which is all the time, because they're everywhere.
It was like, I love doing the research. It was like number one vehicle like in Hawaii. It was like the number one Toyota seller like in Colorado. Like it was like and it was either Maine or Vermont or something like that. It like had out to like Camry or something at some point for some of those regions. So always, yeah, proud of that.
It's good.
And then I'll always remember the X Runner.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
man, that was special. I remember we still had one in the fleet, and it was like, oh yeah, I'm driving a supercharged V6 rear-wheel drive 6-speed manual Toyota, and like we didn't have like super at the time. Everyone's like, what? Toyota has something like that? I'm like, yeah, and it has a T-brake parking brake. How do you like them apples? And they're like, oh, X Runner. They're like, no one ever drove it in the Toyota marketing and like product planning fleet, and so yeah, I could have like free use of it basically.
And you said the magic word, it had that like $9,000 supercharger from the factory, however
Yep.
much that thing was. Like
It
no
was
one really bought those.
super expensive.
Yeah, but it really transformed it because it was like what, 240 I think on its own,
Right.
but then that put it up to like 3, and now you had a real sport
Yep.
truck, and it looked so good.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. Those old trucks. We went on about this not too long ago because I just drove the Ford Maverick Lobo. Have you driven that yet?
Yeah. I think we got to see that at the Mama Rally, right? So
Yeah.
like the low ride height trucks have all but disappeared, right? Like the 4x2s used to, on the Taco, it had like the 5-lug axle, and it was really low to the ground. And so I was like, what are all the landscapers in Southern California going to use now? Like everything's like ultra high ride. The landscapers around here all use like U-Haul trucks now with like a ramp on it, and I'm like, oh, I miss like just seeing like the low pickup truck that they could like throw everything into. But everything is like chest high now. So
yeah, no, it's true. And for a little while, you had those little cargo vans, but they all got killed off too. And those have become like, hold on to those if you have an NV200 or
yeah,
ProMaster
Transit
City.
Connects,
Yeah, because it's one of those things they didn't sell, I guess, as dramatically high as the manufacturers expected, but there was a market, and there's just a big void right now.
Yep. Yeah, even the middle, like Metris disappeared too, right? Like, so everything south of the full-size vans is gone again. So
yeah. All right, we gotta get back into the Min Automotive company that you imagined all those years ago, and we'll just make mid-sized trucks and vans.
Yeah,
sounds good.
No one does that.
Revive the Greek naming.
Yeah. Yeah. The Alpha. Let's just do it.
Just sell stripped out vans and trucks. No one does that. Like that could just be, like, how there's Lucid that only does the EVs. That'd be our specialty. Yeah. Electric, hybrid, gas, just all base model. Steely's for everybody.
Hey, Quebec special, right? So.
Oh yes. Well, we'll put AC in ours. I think that's finally stopped up there. But yeah, that was great. We got so many cars that lasted longer in Canada because of Quebec's love of manuals and base models. Like the Sentra survived forever with the manual base. I think it's finally gone now.
No, we still get SR with the manual.
Yeah, but the S is gone.
Oh yeah.
You used to be able to get like a 5-speed Sentra for like nothing, with nothing in it, and it was great. But
they pay you.
Please take this car, please.
So before we let you go, Kyle just made me think of this when he was talking to you. The games you played, looking at residuals and doing all that, have you got a new game with the tariff game? Like, oh, this car is getting hit so hard right now. If I buy it, once these tariffs disappear in a couple of years, because we know they will, I'll be able to flip it. Like, is that a whole new like level of the game?
But the tariffs change every week, so I feel like we'd be stuck somewhere. That's a dangerous one to play. But yeah, I would love to like maybe Ineos. That'll be the big target in terms of like they're layered with like tariffs and like chicken taxes on like the quartermaster or whatever. So maybe that'll be the one.
Yeah. Nice, small, easy to maneuver truck.
Yeah, it's got the toot horn. That's
that was the best part.
Did you drive it at Mama? I drove it. It was so much fun. And that one had the shovel and everything. It had the full package. The spare wheel sideways in the bed. It was awesome. Sweet. Yeah. All right. Well, we will let you get back to your day. So, where can people see your reviews currently?
Carsplain, and so that's the name across the channels, primarily like YouTube, Instagram, a little bit of TikTok, and then carsplain.com.
All right, and I expect in your product planning role to develop this affordable van and truck in the coming years. So we'll look for it. Put a little nudge so we know it was yours. Like try to sneak in a Delta or something on there.
Yeah,
It'll be etched into the window like every other Easter egg, right? So
yeah. You have a Greek letter on every little bit. One in the headlight, one in the tail light, one in the window, one in the center console. Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on the show. We will definitely have you on again, and enjoy the rest of your week.
appreciate it. All right.
Thanks so much,
guys. Bye.
All right, welcome back to the Auto Guide Show, brought to you by eBay Motors. We once again have Colum Wood joining us to talk F1, and there's no racing, but there's always stories.
Howdy, Mike. There certainly is. Good to be here. Maybe the first story I'll kick off one is a particularly juicy, wild one. I'll walk you into this. So the photo here, for those who are listening, is from Hyundai's official Instagram account, and it shows a picture of what looks like a Formula One car with a Hyundai logo on the back, and some lights, garage, etc., and the words "What if." So this is actually from several months ago, and it was immediately pulled down from the Hyundai official channel. So I don't know if it's just that some intern got access to the the channel and posted something wild and crazy, but Hyundai apparently didn't like it, removed it, no problem, right? That's one thing. This is several months old, but just like yesterday or the past 2 days, there has been a story by a website, and I'll check it out. It's called mk.co.kr, and they have suggested they have a whole article there, an exclusive, talking about how Hyundai is going to be joining Formula One under the Genesis brand, and how this is actually happening. And to make it even juicier, that article was shortly pulled from their website as well. So a lot of this info comes via the Korean car blog website, and they actually have a screen cap of that other website story. So it looks very interesting. I still find this hard to believe. At first, I thought this was like an April Fool's joke or something, and I had to check my calendar. But yeah, anything's possible, I guess.
Yeah, you never know. Maybe this is just some big marketing ploy where they're putting little teasers here to get people talking. Maybe there's someone in Hyundai, like they have like a secret department inside that's looking for this and pulling it down. But Kyle and I talked about this well over a year ago. We were talking about brands that should go racing, and we talked about Genesis, and we said F1 would be awesome for them, but world endurance would be the real sweet spot, and they're going there. Like, I guess they agree, but F1 would still be cool. I don't see Hyundai ever going to F1. I don't think that would make sense. Why would you put your mainstream brand? I know it's a bigger name, but it's Genesis you'd want to push, right?
Yeah, I think so too. Genesis is the way to go. I think maybe I read some comment on one of these posts. I'll steal their idea that Hyundai should just buy Alpine, and then problem solved. Slap a Genesis badge on it, boom, and then worry about the rest of it later on. So there's like you said, there's the when there was the Red Bull Infinity using Renault engines or whatever the heck it was, right? Like it wouldn't be the weirdest brand, and heck, I keep thinking that Toyota's going to buy Haas or something, and they're running Ferrari engines. So anything's possible.
Exactly. You could be just a badge. You could be McLaren, where you make your car and use someone else's engine, or you could go all in. And I wouldn't think they'd go all in. But then again, they just built an entire drivetrain that they don't have for world endurance. They have a V8 and whatnot. They don't make one of those anymore. So if there's one brand I'd never put anything past, it's the Hyundai Kia Genesis brand. They just seem to, they have the money and they have the, I don't know if it's the will or the daringness to just try things. They just, like, new style, new segment, new whatever. Sure, we'll make an N version of our electric car. Sure, like they just go for it.
Yeah, they have ambition, which is nice. It's like, well, they're just going to do crazy stuff. So go for it.
Speaking of ambition.
Okay. So this is my latest attempt at a Cadillac rendering using Google Gemini. I always have a little fun with this. So there's almost no end of rumors here, right? The Bottas, Perez, blah, blah, blah. The latest rumor, one of them is that Perez is going to be joining the team after the race in Italy, which is like early or mid-September. Also another rumor that Alex Dune, who's a F2 driver, could be sort of a potential to join the team as well, giving sort of an experience and a rookie. But maybe the craziest story I've heard yet was the German website Automotor and Sport is reporting that Cadillac is apparently interested in Christian Horner to maybe run the team. So
Oh,
that would be an interesting turn of events in the industry for sure.
I would think there's someone in Cadillac who'd be like, you know what, this might give us some decent success, but at the same time, it's horrible optics. Regardless of what you think did or didn't happen, there's that stigma and optic with them right now, and it's like it's too soon, just like the Fast Furious, too soon, Junior. Like maybe in a couple of years, but right now.
Agreed. I think it's unlikely, but an interesting story nonetheless. So we'll see what happens. I saw a joke online, a meme of they signed Christian Horner and then Perez would be in the door in moments, right? He's like, I know who I like and know and stuff. Although I don't know if really they left on the best terms. So
yeah, I was gonna say I don't know if that ended too well with him constantly throwing Perez under the bus. But...
Yeah. All right, what do we got? What do you got next here? Oh, here we go.
McLaren's.
Yes. So this is apparently the first time this is happening. McLaren ahead of the which race is it? The Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. They're going to be auctioning off cars. Now, normally auctioning off a Formula One car, race car is not unusual, but usually it's of a historic car. They're going to auction off the rights to their future cars, which is very unusual. So you will be able to buy. They're going to have the 2026 F1 car, the 2026 Indy 500 car, and then the 2027 World Endurance Championship car. And I guess it's a huge gamble if the cars are exceptional championship-winning machines. It's probably worth a lot of money. And if they're turds, well, you just blew a lot of cash on a car. So it'll be interesting to see how this turns out. I've never heard of this before. So.
I wonder how much pedigree of what it won and didn't win affects the value down the road. Like I'm sure Ayrton Senna's F1 cars are worth a lot, but I think that's more because he drove them than they won so much. But like a random Ferrari F1 car from the 80s, does it matter if it won or not to buy? Maybe it does. Maybe right away it does, but it is interesting. The Indy car is the easiest gamble. They're competitive now. They're not going to change much. The F1, well, all new regulations in the endurance. I mean, that's a whole new program. So
it is, yeah. I mean, I don't know that people pay big bucks for the others, but the F1 cars could be. And I think you're right. It's probably more about the driver and their history, legacy, etc., which could, just imagine Piastri ends up winning 10, championships in the course of his whole life, and he's like like things that we never would have dreamed of. And this is like the second car he won in or something, right? Who knows? Or some tragic accident involving it, and there's all kinds of stuff. So I think it's more likely that would change the value than anything else. And I don't know how it works. Like I understand, I think Ferrari is very particular in that even if you buy one of those cars, you can't operate it without Ferrari being there. They're very particular. I'd have to look that up, but I know I've heard rumors about such things. So.
Oh yeah, they'll fly on a team of mechanics. Even some of their hyper road cars were like that. Like they had to be specifically maintenance, and they would fly people in, or they would pick your car up and fly it out. Yeah, so of all brands, I would assume that's probably the case of them. Whereas McLaren, I think they'll be like, hey, take it to your weekend track day and show off Lando's F1 car and have fun.
Exactly, have fun. Don't. It's not a frat house of hazing rituals, etc. So
yeah. All right. Well, thanks for joining us. Next week we'll probably take a break as it's vacation time for a lot of us. And then we will be back to start the second half of the season.
Hoorah. Can't wait. So excited. Need some F1 back in my life.
Yeah. All right. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Mike. See ya.
Okay, so that just about wraps up another episode. This week we have been out and about driving cars. Like I've said, in an Escalade because, hey, guess what? I'm reviewing an Escalade this week. And there's also a Taos in the driveway this week, and that's more of a family consumer review because it may be something that my family's buying. We're testing it out because it's got the 8-speed auto, which is such a game changer for that vehicle. Kyle, what are you driving?
I also have two vehicles this week, both German. One is probably also a big fancy SUV. It is my first time in, full breath, big name, the Mercedes-Benz G580 with EQ technology. Yep, I have never driven a Geländewagen, and this seems like a good starting point. I don't look, my initial impressions, and I'm sorry to all parties involved. It's the world's fanciest Wrangler, and I mean that in a good way. It's so funny because it's so fancy inside, and everything is heavy. Like the doors are heavy to close. The tailgate is so heavy. But then you're riding high up. I have to hoist myself up, and it's quick. It's quiet, which I don't know if people want in a G-Wagon. I don't know. There's a lot to unpack here. And then my other vehicle. What were you going to say?
I was going to say you're completely correct about the G-Wagon. Like the Wrangler is such not a practical car to drive day to day, and so many people do. So many of them don't go off road, and it's like the worst suited car for that. But it's got that image and that following and persona, and the G-Wagon, same thing. Like an electric SUV, it's the least practical, most expensive, worst driving one, but it's got that image and persona, and people want one.
Yeah. So I'll have a whole bunch of thoughts on it soon, and then the other one is family vehicle, just like the Taos, really practical. The Porsche 911T, the only manual regular 911 you can buy currently. So it is the 388 horsepower version, rear drive, and a 6-speed. Funny thing is, it used to be a 7-speed, right? Previous generation. I can't get an answer as to why they dropped that. It's just, we just went with a 6. I'm guessing it's because everything else that uses a manual still uses 6. So why keep 2 transmissions around?
Shrinkflation. They cut 2-cylinder, or they shrank the size to put the turbos on. They cut a gear. Everything just get a little smaller.
Yeah. They cut a lot of weight. So I'll have more thoughts on that too. But it's the enthusiast model.
All right,
and then
next week we have just a mundane hybrid comparison, which we'll talk about more next week, and lots more news and reviews. So until then, have a great week.
So long, everybody.
eBay has reinvented car buying. From click to curb, everything is covered. Ever try to buy your car online and end up in a parking lot with a stranger on blind trust? That era is over. Now with Secure Purchase, eBay isn't just where you find your car, it's where you buy it, start to finish. Title, financing, registration, delivery, it's all built in. This is the modern way to buy your next ride on eBay. eBay, things people love. Secure Purchase is powered by Carmel Dealer Services, LLC, an eBay subsidiary.